Welcome inside the CEC TV studios, where we are live with another edition of Trailblazer Weekly. I'm your host, Carrick Segmiller, and today we've got a loaded show with highlights and scores from last week's season opening weekend as football, men's and women's soccer, volleyball, and men's and women's cross country all opened their 2017 schedules last week. Later in the show, we'll sit down with women's soccer head coach Casey Bingham to recap their opening weekend and to break down and take a closer look at the 2017 squad. We'll cap it all off with a look ahead at the next week in Trailblazer athletics. I told you it was a loaded show, and I meant it. So let's get right to it. Trailblazer Weekly starts now. Again, another warm welcome inside this week's edition of Trailblazer Weekly. Last week was a busy week as football, men's and women's soccer, volleyball, and men's and women's cross country all opened their 2017 schedules over the weekend. The season opening weekend saw some ups and downs as the teams combined to record a 4-5 record on the week, while the women's cross country team picked up a win and the men's team finished third in the open division at the George Kite Invitational in Flagstaff, Arizona. You should know, all of these teams opened their seasons on the road. We were still able to get some highlights and photos from the week. We've put them all together in our new segment, the Trailblazer Weekly Rewind. Why tell you about the results when we can show them to you? Sit back, relax, and enjoy all the top moments from last week in our Trailblazer Weekly Rewind. and certainly a fun week. Obviously, men's and women's soccer winning both of their games, combining to go 4-0. Volleyball, tough week in California, going 0-4 down there. Football had the lead in the fourth quarter, dropping that game to Mexico Highlands 23-22. And men's and women's cross country getting some good results at the George Kite Invitational in Flagstaff, Arizona. So it was certainly a fun week, and it's going to be a fun segment as we're able to show you the highlights and the photos. Even when our teams are on the road, we look forward to doing that each week. And this coming week, all the teams on the road once again, so we'll be able to gather those highlights for you and show you our Trailblazer Weekly Rewind each week. It's time for our first break. When we come back, women's soccer head coach Casey Bingham will join us on set to help us break down the Trailblazers opening weekend. Don't go anywhere. There's more Trailblazer Weekly right after this timeout.
I take the road less traveled, run free, unwind, unravel, someplace outside with lots to do. Green trees, red rocks, and don't forget that blue sky. The sunshine shining, sunshine pouring on me. Think I might just stay a while. Say hooray all day because the sun is gonna shine on me. Sun, it's gonna shine on me. Sun's gonna shine on me.
Todd's a great guy. I mean, look at him. What a sweetheart. Attaboy. Wait, Todd, what are you doing? How totally selfish and un-Todd-like of you. Come on, Todd. Come on, man.
Your daughter is having trouble learning French. Do you A, hire a tutor?
Bonjour.
B, enforce a French-only rule at home? Or C, watch some foreign films? When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers, but that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
I take the road less traveled, run free, unwind, unravel, someplace outside with lots to do. Green trees, red rocks, and don't forget that blue sky. The sunshine shining, sunshine pouring on me. Think I might just stay a while. Say hooray all day because the sun is gonna shine on me. Sun, it's gonna shine on me. Sun's gonna shine on me.
Welcome back to Trailblazer Weekly. Well, the fall sports season and soccer season officially has kicked off, and women's soccer head coach Casey Bingham joined us now to break down last week's wins as well as look ahead at the rest of the season. Coach, as always, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
It was a great opening weekend for your girls, for your team up in Idaho. You go up and you're able to get both wins. Let's just talk about both games. First, the Western State game, and who else but, you know, the team leader, Darian Murdoch, coming out. Yep. The hat trick, 3 goals. But what else did you see in that 3-0 win that made you happy, that got you excited for the season?
Not only in our first win, but I think all weekend we were just really pleased with not only what our returners brought, but more in specific what our new players brought. So I think that was really exciting. I think Jill Bennett to come out and get 2 assists early on in that game was huge, and I think, you know, that's what we need to be successful this year, is our freshmen to step in.
Well, when you look at, you know, that first game, especially in the second game, you look at the box score and just an overwhelming advantage for your team in shots. taken. And obviously, you don't get the ball in the back of the net without taking those shots. But that had to be, you know, something that you look at that you say, you know, that was good. We need to continue to do that throughout the season.
Yeah, we were creating. It was dangerous. Darian, I think almost every shot she took that game, she put on frame. So that's a phenomenal way for her to get started. And I mean, we can't say enough about our defense all weekend. So our defense all weekend, limiting shot opportunities, goal scoring opportunities, was just so huge for us.
Remember in the quote in the post-game recap of the first game of the Western State game, you were quoted as saying that, you know, it's good for Darian, but you're excited to see some of the other girls get into the mix. And lo and behold, the next day, some of the other girls were able to get into the attack and score in that 2-0 win over Northwest Nazarene. What specifically did you see that you liked in that second game so that you could continue on the momentum built from the first game and then finish the weekend strong, come home with 2 wins in your back pocket?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, first games, there's always some nerves. You've got new kids in the mix; they're nervous. So I think it wasn't necessarily the most solid play we've seen from our team since we've gotten started. But I think, especially the first half, we struggled a little bit. But once we calmed down in the second half and really just started playing well and combining, and then, you know, we've got 2 freshman goal scorers for us, freshman assist. I mean, that's just so huge. And we're going to need that, especially when teams, you know, zero in on Darian. So I think, you know, we're going to show that we've got goal scorers, multiple ones that other teams are going to have to account for.
I know in any sport really, but I mean, you look at the goals scored. You combine for 5 goals in the first 2 games, which is spectacular. But also the other number that's got to make you happy is the 0 goals allowed for the entire weekend. Talk about the defense, your goalkeeper play, and that back line, and helping keep the ball out of the back of your own net.
Yeah, right after the second game, and we all came together, and I think that was the number one thing we targeted on was we didn't give up a goal this weekend. And I think that was the number one accomplishment. We said if we're going to, you know, do something big in the Pac West this year, we have to keep goals out of the back of the net. So that was a number one focus for us. So that was huge. And then, you know, the backs played amazing. Keepers were solid. They didn't have to make too many saves for us, but the ones that we needed them to make, they made. So, you know, Felicity had both shutouts, which was great. So I think we're really feeling confident in the back line and with our goalkeeper.
Let's talk about this year's team, specifically just as we look at the rest of the year. You welcome back 6 regular starters, those that, you know, were regularly making those starts. Obviously, we got to see them on Media Day right here in these very studios. Darian Murdoch, Montana Hadley's back. Who are maybe some players that we should expect to hear from that are newcomers, maybe transfers or freshmen? Yeah. Let's talk on the attack first, and then we'll talk defensively.
Sure. I mean, one player that we haven't even got to see is Jamie Arado. So she's been out with injury, but she's making the trip this week for us. So we're excited to see her step in and see what she can do. Obviously, she's a proven goal scorer, so we're expecting her to come and be a threat. And then she's a transfer for us, and then freshmen coming in. So in particular, Jill Bennett has already showed us that she's a goal scorer. Brooklyn Vogelsberg, Tori Page. I mean, those 3 freshmen alone will all have a handful of goals this year, I'm sure of it. So we're excited about the firepower we're bringing.
Now, you mentioned Jamie Arado, and I just want to make sure I'm looking at this right. She led the nation, the NJCAA, in goals scored last season with 48.
Correct. Yep.
Now that's got to be exciting for a coach to be able to add that into your attack. Let's talk defensively now. Obviously, like we said, Montana Hadley helping shore up that back line. But who are some of the girls that maybe we don't know as well, but we will by the end of the year?
Montana's always been a key player in our back line. You know, we've got to throw in there Jessica Ogilvie, who played center back for us this past weekend and was phenomenal. And then Bailey Krall, who played on the left back for us, which was huge. This week we're adding Nicole Mertz back into the mix, who's been a starter for us the past couple years, who was out this past weekend. So we're only getting stronger as we get healthier, which is great. I mean, the back line's so strong.
Yeah, obviously you already mentioned Felicity pitching both shutouts. Who else might we see between the posts back there for the Trailblazers?
Yeah, Sarah Beecher is with us this weekend. She's our senior. She's another super capable keeper who, you know, can step in, and it's always going to be a constant battle for those keepers to see who gets the time there. Obviously, the 2017 season is the kind of the farewell tour through the Pac West Conference. Picked to finish 5th this year in the conference. Not that your team needed any added motivation with it being your last time through the Pac West,
but I'm sure being picked 5th, and just the fact that, hey, this is the last time we get to play, at least on a conference basis, a lot of these teams. How much has that played into the preparation, into how much these girls are excited for this season?
Yeah, I mean, even before that, ranking came out, I mean, the girls already had their mindset on what they wanted to do. So I think, they talked about it for a minute, but ultimately, like, their goals are set. They know what they want to do, and that ranking really doesn't matter in the big scheme because they're set on finishing number 1.
Obviously, you just mentioned it right there. That goal is to win the Pacific West Conference, and conference play is still a few weeks away. But let's look at the schedule. Obviously, it started last weekend with those 2 wins. Back on the road this week to Rohnert Park, California. That's a pretty long trip. Hopefully you get to hop on an airplane maybe for that one and not have to bus all the way up through California.
We're flying, yeah.
Okay, good, because that's a long trip.
Yeah.
I've made that trip before, and that would be a long bus ride. But Sonoma State on Thursday, Southern Oregon on Saturday. What do you see out of these 2 teams that you'll be facing Thursday and Saturday?
Well, obviously Sonoma is a top 25 team in the nation, so it's going to be a huge game. So, we're excited to see what we can do against a top team in the country. We know it's going to be a great test for us, and it's going to be a challenging game. So, we just want to go and compete and see where we're at, see where our strengths are, see where we still need to do some work. But we're going to go and fight and battle for the game either way. And then going into Southern Oregon is another team that's had a great start to their season, and we're just excited to get on the road, play some good teams, and see where we are.
After you come home, you've got 1 non-conference game. You're going to welcome Westminster for just up I-15 to Legend Solar Stadium, and then you've got the rest of that 5-game homestand jumping into the Pac-West Conference play on September 21st with Chaminade, then Biola, Hawaii Pacific, and then, of course, the all-important game, always rivalry game against California Baptist. Mm-hmm. How big is that 5-game homestand for your team when you look in the big picture in terms of where you want to finish? Yeah. In the conference this year? Obviously, you never want to lose at home, so there's a chunk of 5 games all at home. Yeah,
there's nothing like playing at home. On your field, with your whole team there, with your fans, I mean, it's so crucial. We've got some big games that we get to host, which we're so excited about. So it's been nice to get on the road and be tested, but it will be even better to be back home and hopefully get some wins right here at home for our fans.
Of course, continuing to look at the schedule, all things even out, so you get 5 at home, but then you're at 4 on the road again after that, and then kind of 2 and 2 from there on out. And a tough one against the Azusa Pacific will be the final game on November 4th. Is there a certain game that the girls always have circled on the schedule? Cal Baptist is always there. Azusa, maybe Concordia. What are the games that they're really looking forward to in that Pac-West schedule? I
know Cal Baptist will be big. We've beat them the past 2 years in overtime, so that's going to be a big game right from the beginning, which will be huge. And I think a couple games that we felt got away from us last year was Point Loma and Concordia, that we'd like to, come and play well. Even Dominican was a game we felt like got away from us, and then always Azusa Pacific. That's the one team since I've been here that we haven't been able to beat yet. So we'd like to come and end this last year against them with a win.
Again, that last game of the season, regular season, November 4th, the goal is to hopefully be playing again that next weekend. How much has that played into your preparation? Not just winning the Pacific West Conference, but hey, if we win the conference, we have a great chance of getting to the NCAA regionals.
Yeah, it's something we talk about and is definitely in our long-term goals, but I think we have a long way still to get there. So I think we're really trying to make sure that we take it game by game and that we're focusing on the little details. We talk a lot about the details, and before we get ahead of ourselves, we need to make some improvements and adjust what we're doing, and then just take care of the game in front of us.
Well, thanks for stopping by today. We appreciate you getting to know you a little bit better, getting to know this year's team. Obviously, a fantastic weekend in Idaho last weekend. We wish you the best of luck in California this weekend, all throughout the season. So thanks again for stopping by. Another reminder that the Trailblazer women's soccer team will travel to take on Sonoma State on Thursday and Southern Oregon on Saturday in Rohnert Park, California. We'll have those results for you at DixieStateAthletics.com as they come in throughout the weekend. It's time for our final timeout. When we come back, we'll look at last week's award winners as well as next week's schedule right after this timeout.
I take the road less traveled. Run free, unwind, unravel. Someplace outside with lots to do. Green trees, red rocks, and don't forget that blue sky. The sunshine shining, sunshine pouring on me. Think I might just stay a while. Say hooray all day because the sun is gonna shine on me. Sun is gonna shine on me. Sun's gonna shine on me.
Todd's a great guy. I mean, look at him. What a sweetheart. Attaboy. Wait, Todd, what are you doing? How totally selfish and un-Todd-like of you. Come on, Todd. Come on, man.
Your daughter is having trouble learning French. Do you A, hire a tutor,
Bonjour.
B, enforce a French-only rule at home, or C, watch some foreign films? When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers, but that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Welcome back inside the CEC TV studios in this week's edition of Trailblazer Weekly. Another big thanks to women's soccer head coach Casey Bingham, and we continue to wish them the best of luck throughout the year. Before we wrap up the show today, let's take one last look back at last week and highlight our Conference Weekly award winners. Women's soccer earned this week's lone weekly awards after opening the 2017 regular season with 2 shutout victories. Dixie State picked up 2 Pacific West Conference Weekly awards just yesterday on Monday. Senior forward Darian Murdoch was named Pac West Player of the Week, while forward Tori Page was selected as the league's Freshman of the Week. Now, Murdoch, who was voted Pac West Preseason Player of the Year, picked up right where she left off in 2016 as she netted her second career hat trick in DSU's 3-0 triumph over Western State Colorado last Thursday. Murdoch wasted little time getting her senior season going as she found the back of the net just 3 minutes into the match against Western State, then tacked on another first-half tally before adding her 3rd goal of the game with 5 minutes left to play. She fired 8 shots overall in the WSCU match, all of which were on frame. Now, Paige picked up her first collegiate points on a goal and an assist in the second half of DSU's 2-0 win at Northwest Nazarene this past Saturday. She assisted on DSU's game-winning goal on a ball played into fellow freshman Brooklyn Vogelsberg in the 63rd minute, then found the back of the net herself 8 minutes later on a header to salt the match away. So big congratulations to Darian and Tori, and we look forward to many more Conference Weekly awards throughout the season, and we'll highlight them in this segment throughout the year. Before we wrap up now, I just want to take a quick look ahead at the next week's schedule. And just a quick reminder that you can do the same anytime you want. Head over to DixieStateAthletics.com, head up to Athletic Department, the tab at the top, and then in the drop down you can pull out the athletic calendar, and it will show you day by day which teams are playing over the weekend. This week, a pretty heavy schedule, but none of the teams at home again, so we'll go Thursday, Friday, Saturday, nothing Sunday, and then a game on Monday. Women's volleyball against Stanislaus Slate on Thursday. Women's soccer at Sonoma State on Thursday, then into Friday. Volleyball back in action at Central Washington, and then they will also take on UC San Diego that same day. All of those matches in Ellensburg, Washington. Saturday is the big one. A lot of the teams back in action. Women's soccer taking on Southern Oregon. Football is traveling to take on South Dakota Mines in Rapid City, South Dakota. Men's soccer will take on Eastern New Mexico. That game played in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And women's volleyball will take on Concordia, Oregon in Ellensburg, Washington. Again, nothing Sunday. Then into Monday, men's soccer will be at Colorado Springs. And that finishes up our look ahead. We'll have all those results for you on the show next week. That will do it for today's Trailblazer Weekly. We remind you that you can catch all episodes of the show on demand at the Dixie State Athletics YouTube page, which is specifically youtube.com/Dixie State Athletics. Again, we thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week on Trailblazer Weekly.